Depreciation reports. So depreciation reports, we've done seminars just on them. The key thing is they're a great tool. More than half of our strata corporations that we manage now have them, and we're seeing more and more get them. So I think it's going to become more and more common in the industry over the next couple of years to have a depreciation report. They are good for giving council and the owners an idea of what they should be saving for. Specifically in that 3 to 7 year range. If you've attended our other seminars on depreciation report, I personally am not a fan of saving for windows that are going to go in 25 years and then also saving for the next 5 years because it's a 30-year window, 30-year savings horizon, and the windows are only going to last 25. In 25 years from now, I'm sure they're going to have like super diamond windows or something. So it makes sense to save, but you probably, it's not prudent to save for those every 30-year item that's on there. But it definitely helps you if you know, wow, we do have to replace all of the panes of glass in the window, and the depreciation report saying they're going to start coming due in about 2 to 3 years. You know, that's a story where you can go to the owners when you're talking about planning the CRF and say, you know, we're going to have this $50,000 expense in 3 to 4 years. Our CRF only has 100,000 in it, you know, we really should start increasing it to save for it. Expenditures, again, we talked about that. It's a bit of a fast track. You only need a majority vote to spend if it's noted in your depreciation report, and just a great tool overall. Comparables. This is fun. So you've done your budget, you've done your rough budget, right? You followed Dylan's logic, you've inputted my depressing figures, and you've got your budget. So is it realistic? We want to do some acid testing on it. So the first thing you do is you got to figure out what your metric is. One of the metrics is how much is it increasing? Okay, our strata budget is increasing overall from 5%. Okay, so then there's a metric, 10%, whatever it is, you've got a metric. And then, or you can use a cost per square foot. And so this is common, especially in the development community. So what you do is you got to figure out how many square feet each home is on average. And so the easiest thing to do is if the building is, say, last 10 years, your unit entitlement is square meters. So you just take that, times it by 10.764, and that gives you square feet. So then you got your square feet. If your building's older, chances are already the unit entitlement is square feet. And then there was a couple years where they did weird things. But overall, you should be able to figure out your square feet. Then you divide your strata fees by the number of square feet, and that'll give you a cost per square foot for the year, and then you divide that by 12, and that gives you a cost per square foot per month. And in the development community, that's what they measure how much the strata fees are. And so if you do that, you should get somewhere in the range between 30 and 90 cents. Kind of depends on what you have. Each strata is different, but that'll give you a metric. So you've got two metrics you can do. How much the strata fees are going up, but how much cost per square foot is really a key indicator. Now, you can't compare the private residence at Hotel Georgia against some townhomes in Langley. It's going to be very different, right? But you can compare it against similar product. And the easiest way to do that is to look at some real estate listings. And you can go to realtor.com or MLS, I think it's called realtor.ca or whatever it is now. You can go in there and you can look at your community. And you can pick buildings of similar type and service. And if you get 10 of them in your area, you can compare it cost per square foot. You can do that because it has the square feet of the unit and it's got what the strata fees are, right? And so you're then able to compare to your neighbors in the area on what they have. Now, is this like a complete science? No, it's a general idea because maybe you don't have a pool, they do. You have 24-hour concierge, they don't. They decided to fund their CRF significantly. You haven't. But if you get 10 buildings, it'll give you a general theme. And you can say, we're 32 cents a square foot. And then the neighbors, which were built around the same time, are all 60 cents a square foot. Something doesn't seem right. I got to do some investigation. Or you're going to be able to say, oh yeah, that does reasonably make sense. It's pretty cool when you start doing this because a lot of them are really similar. Now, there's a couple other things. It depends on the size of the units. So you don't want to compare a penthouse that has, if they're all penthouses and they all have big floor plates, then the cost per square foot is going to be less because there's less people living in the building. But again, if you go similar to similar, it's going to give you some interesting stats that you can work off of and judge your area. We have one strata in North Vancouver where they do this, two stratas in North Vancouver where they do this every year. There's a group of them and they get together and they're within 2 cents of each other per square foot. It's pretty interesting, and they're all built within, say, about 5 years. And so they can kind of gauge what each other's doing. So I think it's a pretty neat idea, and when you're doing a budget, it's something you can do and you can explore, you know, holy cow, we're $1.12 a square foot. What are we doing here? You know, maybe we have to get rid of one of our 40 concierge. But you know, it's something you can use as a metric. You can also neighborhood groups. So there's strata councils. If there's a large amount of stratas in one area, there's strata council groups. You can compare with them. Oh, we're seeing our strata fees forecasted to go up 5% this year. Oh, we're seeing them going 10%. Oh, but you know, we settled that lawsuit and we had to pay the legal fees, or whatever it is. But you're going to be able to have a dialogue by having a metric, and the increase and the square footage are great ones to use. You can ask your strata manager. They're not going to be always an expert on what it is, but they're going to be able to say, yeah, that seems reasonable. You're 33 cents a square foot in your townhomes in Abbotsford, and your units aren't heated by the Strata Corporation. But if the Strata Corporation has to pay the heat in the unit, then definitely your strata fees are going to be more. And then I just talked about square meters to square feet. It's and we'll include the calculation in the slide deck we find out, but it's kind of fun when you start cruising around to see what your neighbors are and what they're spending for strata fees.